All right. Do you remember how we start? We say, welcome to TheySpin and Daughter. Yeah. Who are you?
Thora.
And I am Catherine. And you can find me online as TheySpin. I'm TheySpin on Ravelry and _spin on Instagram. And this is our Rhinebeck recap episode. Yay! So we went to Rhinebeck, and then a whole lot of other stuff happened, so we haven't had a chance to record our episode about all of the stuff that we did and all of the stuff that we got. So you should have just seen a little flash by of all of the stuff that we got at the festival. Oh, what are you going to show us?
My red yarn.
Okay, bring the card too so we can see who made the yarn. And can you bring the orange one too?
Why?
Because that's the one that I got for me at the same place.
You
Okay, I'll hold them. You climb back up.
No, I want to put my red one in.
Yes. So, from Painted Spring Alpacas, and maybe, I don't know if the camera's going to focus on them, but that's Painted Spring Alpacas. Quality animals with a focus on fiber, reasonable prices, great support. They were lovely, and we got mini skeins of their alpaca merino sock yarn. So I got some sort of pumpkin-y orange color, and what color are yours?
Pink and red.
Your two favorite colors, and what do you want to do with them?
I want to make an Elsa dress. I want to make an Anna dress.
There's definitely not enough yarn there to make an Anna dress. I thought we were going to make mittens out of that pink and red yarn.
Actually, I want to make rainbow pants.
Well, certainly that is a possibility. So that's a little kickoff preview of the stuff that we got at Rhinebeck. So just briefly, we went and stayed with friends of ours, have family in the area. We drove up with them on Saturday to the festival. We arrived in time for the podcaster meetup. If I got a chance to say hi to you at the podcaster meetup, that's really fun. It was my first Rhinebeck, and of course it was Thora's first Rhinebeck too. And so it was just really fun to get to do all of this stuff. That's, that the festival is about. So you and the others went to go and see the animals at Rhinebeck, right? What animals did you see?
I don't want to be in the podcast for just a second.
Okay, well, Thora's going to hide under the chair for a few minutes. And so I will start off. So at the podcaster meetup, there were folks who were handing out goodies, and most notably for me anyway, was the Knitting in Our Jeans podcast. I don't know if that'll focus, but the Knitting in Our Jeans podcast was handing out a bag of pins, and some of the pins had nail polish strokes on the back, and if you got a nail polish stroke pin, they gave you a skein of yarn, which is super exciting. So I got this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous sort of pinky, goldy, red autumnal colors, and that's from Backyard Fiber Works. And the color is Marmalade, which is super fitting. And the base is Terrain, which is 100% superwash merino, 328 yards, 100 grams, sport weight. And I think that is the folks who do the Knitting in Our Jeans podcast are now dyeing yarn. And so they were handing it out at the podcaster meetup. And it's gorgeous. And it's a color that I absolutely would never pick for myself. But it was so much the colors of Rhinebeck. And it totally just reflects what it looked like for me to be there, which is really lovely. So that was earlier in the day. Sorry, just going to take a drink here. Fancy, fancy mason jar water glass. Would you like some?
Not juice.
We don't have any juice.
Maybe we could buy more juice.
We probably could, but I don't think we will. But we're doing a podcast here. We're not talking about juice, yo. So the number one vendor that I wanted to hit at Rhinebeck this year was the Merlin Tree Spinning Wheel Company. So this is the makers of my spinning wheel, which is called the Hitchhiker. And they are based in Vermont, and they don't ship to Canada for most things, which is, always a bit of a disappointment for us when we find stuff that won't ship to Canada, but I totally understand. It's things that are fragile, it's things that are heavy, and, there you go. That's the decision that they've made, and that's fine. But knowing that they were going to be there, it was time for a new flyer for my spinning wheel, because my poor spinning wheel had gotten crunched and the flyer itself had broken, and so there was no way to spin with it, which was really, really sad, because it happened 2 days after I decided it was finally time to record a podcast and be out about pronouns and gender stuff. No, leave that alone, please. And I changed all of my social media names to TheySpin, and then I didn't have a spinning wheel anymore. So that was, a kind of a disappointment itself. But there you go. We were going to be at Rhinebeck, and the vendor was going to be there. So I have a brand new flyer for my spinning wheel.
What's a flyer?
It's this part with the hooks on it that goes round and round and round and round and round and round. And it's great because this is the newer design for the spinning wheel. It's a little bit wider, so it can accommodate a fuller bobbin, and it will also accommodate a couple of different styles of bobbin. And the original design was only able to accept this size of bobbin. This spinning wheel uses a standard Ashford bobbin, which is great because they're available all over the place. And the other thing that I wanted to get a replacement of was the onboard orifice hook. So the wheel does have an onboard orifice hook, which is what the fluff is hooked around right now. But the previous one that I had inherited with the wheel, the hook had come out of the shaft that holds it on. So that was a known issue with the orifice hook, so that wasn't a problem to replace as well. So super exciting. I can spin again. Yay! Spinning! It's so great. I love it so much. And I finally feel like I'm actually getting to be good at it, which is really cool. And I think spinning is probably one of the few skills that I've actually tried to learn as an adult. And definitely that adult thing that we have where if we try something and we're not immediately good at it right away, we feel like we're just never going to be good at it and we just stop doing it. Kids totally know that it takes time to learn things, and somehow grown-ups feel they should be good at things immediately right away. So I stopped spinning. Like, when I first learned to spin, I was so frustrated by it, I didn't do it for a year, maybe, and then came back to it, and now I guess I can sort of feel the progress that I'm actually having, and feel myself getting better and see my work getting more and more consistent. So when I came home from the festival, I was able to spin this gorgeous thing. So this is a 2-ply. It's about 120 grams altogether. So it was about 60 grams of a, it's not handmaiden, it's Fleece Artist. So this was a Fleece Artist, originally a thrum mitten kit fleece, I think. It's a 60 gram merino silver amount. And that's the sort of multicolored pink, and then it was plied together with a solid color Ashford merino in the dark sort of magenta-y pink. And it's one of the techniques that I have employed several times in the spinning that I've been doing, because I often find at local yarn shops and stuff, I can't get spinning fiber in enough quantity for me to be able to have an appreciable quantity of yarn at the end. This is 120 grams of a 2-ply, and it's about 500 yards if my calculations are correct, which it's totally possible that they aren't. But this was the first time that I was able to get anywhere close to that kind of yardage out of even a 2-ply yarn. But I mean, there's totally people in the world who can get 400 yards of a 3-ply out of 100 grams of fiber. And I don't know if I'm just spinning still too densely, because that feels like the biggest hurdle for me, is making sure that I'm not smushing the yarn completely. But this was so lovely when it came off of the bobbins. It was super, super balanced even before it had a bath. It only sort of had one twist in the hank, and now it doesn't have any twist. You can see it hangs straight. So I was really, really pleased with it. It feels super, super lovely. Thora has already claimed it for me to make her something. So we'll see if maybe this is going to get combined with her pink and red minis that she showed before to make some mittens. I've got an idea for a 2-layer mitten pattern. But yeah, it's, it's just actually starting to feel like I'm a real spinner. Like I actually have some idea of what I'm trying to accomplish. So that is my big finished object since we recorded last. Aside from my Rhinebeck sweater. Yay! So I did in fact finish my Rhinebeck sweater in time for the festival, only just. The ends are not actually woven in. I wove in some of the ends, but any of the ends that I thought I could sort of like get away with, I just left. So we drove down from Montreal down to the festival. So we drove 5-6 hours on Friday afternoon to get there. And I was working the sleeves 2 at a time. So that they would at least be the same length. And I decided that at whatever point I was in the sleeve when we got to where we were staying, that is where I would stop doing sleeve length and I would start in on the sleeve cable. So that's the cable that's down at the end of the sleeve. And then I stayed up till very, very late at night. Finished the cable, and I just had the ribbing on the end of the sleeve to go in the car for the hour drive between where we were staying and the festival site. So I did it. I had a sweater for Rhinebeck. I was in the Christy Glass video. It was great. And Christy, I wrote you already, but thank you so much for what you do for the knitting community and for knitting on YouTube and all of that stuff. Just your enthusiasm is amazing and contagious, and I'm really glad that I got to meet you. I'm really glad that I got to meet everybody. When I stopped and saw Christy, I was on my way to the podcaster meetup, where I was able to meet Marcia from the Very Little podcast, which was really lovely. She and I had corresponded a little bit before the festival, so it was super great to meet her in person. I got to meet Gabby from Once Upon a Corgi and Freakish Lemon Adrian, which was super fun. And in all of my life stuff, I had not quite gotten together all of the sort of gift packages that I wanted to make for some of my favorite folks. But I was able to amass some of those things that I had planned, so that was really cool. I got to meet Amy Beth Fat Squirrel, and the ladies from Two Tangled Skeins, and Then while I was hanging out at the podcaster meetup, I got to meet Lauren from Color Wheel Yarns. And she has just started dyeing yarn. So she had micro minis that she was handing out at the podcaster meetup. So this is the Lucky Pants colorway, which is super fun. And somebody, and I feel super bad that I don't know who, was handing out these super cute notions about snap together magical gotta be Japanese things. So I'm sorry that I don't know who you are. I feel really bad about that because you gave me a lovely thing and that was lovely. The folks from the Flame and Fiber podcast, Barbara, aka Divas, was handing out these super lovely stitch markers. So it's sort of a like, I don't know, a little like depression class kind of look. And on a stitch marker. And so that was super lovely. I'm going to have to go check out her YouTube as well. And so that was the podcaster meetup. And after that we did a tour through some of the barns at the end of the day and did the bulk of the yarn shopping damage. So my big goal going to Rhinebeck had been to amass enough minis to make myself an advent calendar of minis. And I did not get all the way on it. I think I came home with 14 minis at the end, maybe only 12 because I think I counted those pink and red ones that Thora has claimed for herself. So in terms of minis, I picked up, over here. So I picked up 3 colors from Primrose Yarns. So there those are. So these are Punk Rock Mermaid on top, Spacesuit in the middle, and Temptation at the bottom. Which one do you like the best? The one on the bottom, Temptation. It's so pretty. There's, like, look at that end with all those little speckles. And, oh, I was just super glad to have this one as part of the collection. I'm going to love pulling that out during Advent time. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to knit into my blanket every day during Advent. That would be super lovely. And probably would be super necessary. Because Advent, December is a really busy time for our family for lots of reasons. So taking the time to do a little bit of knitting that's not just gift knitting, because we like gift knitting in this house. We like gift making, but still it does take a lot. So I picked up those 3 from Primrose Yarns, and I had sort of decided that I wasn't gonna get fiber because I hadn't been spinning for the past sort of 2 or 3 months. Because my spinning wheel had been broken, and though I had just bought the part to replace it, I did sort of have this kind of backlog of spinning fiber, and I don't know if I've mentioned this the last time, but we live in a very small home. We live in an apartment that's about 550 square feet for 2 grown-ups and a kid and a part-time teenager. So there's a lot of fabric, there's a lot of yarn, and there's already a fair amount of fiber here. So I really, I looked at loop bumps and I was super, super tempted. But in the end, I decided that with any luck, there will be other Rhinebecks in our future, and there will be lots of time to buy all the spinning fiber. I did stop at the spinning studio because they had mawatas, also called silk hankies. These are a preparation of silk specifically for spinning, and they're totally different than anything that I have ever spun before. And I figured if I was going to get something, I wanted to get something that was unique and different. Now, you will, as we go through this podcast, you will see more and more of the things in my life that are blue and green and yellow. gentle, 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 gentle.
It feels like a blankie.
It does. So this is blue and green and yellow and white. And that is the colors of my life. So I was just, I saw them and I sort of beelined, and so that was the only spinning thing that came home with me. Again, that's the Spinning Studio, and they are in Bradford, Vermont. So that can go into the spinning stash. And then in the barns A, B, C, and D, if you're familiar with the Rhinebeck setup, those main indoor barns, the last place that we stopped in those barns was Flying Goat Farm. And I got their Corriedale minis set, and this is a gradient in the meadow colorway. And I will probably put those into the blanket as is. I don't think that I will use them in a project set up in this way, but they are super gorgeous. I tried to get colors that are outside of my normal comfort zone because, the blanket that I'm working on is strategically a rainbow, and so it strategically actually requires all of the different colors to be in it, and I just keep buying things that are blue and green and yellow. So, that's why I was double grateful for this one. But they're just so gorgeous and so lovely. So that is Flying Goat Farm. And the folks that were there were super lovely as well. So that was the total of what came from the main barns at Rhinebeck. And then it was the end of the day and we tried to go and get cider donuts and stood in line for like 15 minutes and the line didn't move really at all. And so we were over down at that end of the festival. And so decided to make a trip through the more outdoor barns that are over by the animal section. And so we stopped there. And so first place that we stopped there was Angora Online. Well, they're at angoraonline.com. And see, I tried to step out of my comfort zone and get not blue and green. Womp womp. So this is a mini sock yarn superwash merino nylon, and there's about 90 yards in each of those minis. And apparently I just can't resist blue and green. So that was Angora Online, and then the last stop that we did was at Schweitzer's Fiber Mill, which is in Seven Valleys, Pennsylvania. It seems that they do fiber processing. So if you are going to festivals and buying full fleeces and you don't want to wash and prep them yourself, they do fiber processing, which is super cool, and they can either card it or bat it or spin it for you. So there you go. The more you know. So that's Schweitzer's Fiber Mill, and they also had their own yarn for sale. And from their sale bin, picked up this skein, which in the pan over looked really, really orange, and it's not. It's a very red, it's like a pinky red with an orange undertone. It's definitely not as orange as it looked in that pan over. And it's definitely a crunchy wool, really, it's got a lot of bounce and a lot of squish and a lot of probably prickle factor. Thora is a lot less sensitive to prickle factor than I am. So this was something that I was thinking as an exterior layer for a pair of double layer mitts. was one of the things that I thought. And unfortunately, it was in the sale bin, and I imagine maybe this is even left over from a previous year. The label is really, really abused. So unfortunately, 220 yards, 100% wool, 2-ply DK, I think. But that looks about right, and that sounds about right. So, so there's this. So they're sort of tonal, pinky, reddy, rust color from Schweitzer fiber mills. And then this super lovely bluey green. You can see the repeating theme. So that's a bluey green. It doesn't actually have a label, but I would say I'm sure this is a merino or, I mean, conceivably like a Rambouillet or a Polworth, but it really does have that very little prickle. You know, it's super, super soft. It might like super wash maybe even. But this is totally my color, and I imagine that this will become part of probably mittens for me. So that is the haul. That is all the stuff that we bought at Rhinebeck. There were no tote bags by the time we decided that we might want a tote bag, which is too bad, but there you go. And that was our venture. It was amazing. It was everything that I wanted and more. And so I'm just so glad that we got to go, and I'm so grateful that opportunity was there for us as a family, to go with friends that we really, really like. So yeah, so lovely. In the meantime, since I've been back, I have been working on my Find Your Fade shawl, which I'll probably pull out the next time we record, because I hope that by the next time we record, it'll be all done, because I'm on the last color now. And so I'm so in love with it. So in love with it. And I've been working on a totally ridiculous knitting design, which I'm also in the home stretch of. So definitely check the Instagram for updates on that, because I'm sure I'll have finished object photos before any kind of design information comes out on it. And then what I did actually bring to show, though, is my spinning. So now that I have a spinning wheel again, yay! I've been working on the spinning that I had wanted to do before Rhinebeck. So, excuse me. This is the Hop It Along 4G from Leading Men Fiber Arts. And I got this back when Leading Men Fiber Arts was still dyeing fiber, which unfortunately they're not doing anymore, which makes me sad. But I am perfectly willing to admit that I was like one of the 4 people buying it. So, you know, a business is a business, and they have, you know, Steve has said that maybe they'll have it at shows and whatnot, but it's not going to be part of their regular inventory. So now I am jealously hoarding forever my, I have a braid of their Mornings in the Backyard colorway, which is one of my very favorite colorways of all time. Guess what? It's blue and green and yellow. But I have it in fiber. I also have it in DK weight yarn. It's one of my favorite colors of all time. So I will jealously hoard that, but I really wanted to spin this collection. So they take their regular braid of fiber, and this is a group of colors that they would normally dye as a variegated or on fiber as, you know, colors distributed throughout the braid. But instead it was split up into 4 individual mini braids of fiber of each of the component colors. So there's sort of a medium purple, a really bright sort of egg yolk yellow, this sort of mint green, and this peachy pink. And again, the colorway is called Hoppin' Along. So it's definitely an Easter colorway. This is Superwash BFL. About 4 ounces all total, so about one ounce each. And what I'm doing is I've splitting them in half. So I'm going to spin half of the purple with half of the pink, half of the pink with half of the yellow, half of the yellow with half of the mint, and then half of the mint with half of the purple. So accomplishing this reasonably easy. I've actually only had to split in half and weigh the purple. So I've done that, and I've spun the first half of the purple. So that's that there. And now I'm just going to spin through all of the pink, and then I'll apply together the pink with half of the purple, and then half of the pink will be left over, and I'll spin all of the yellow, and until the end. So definitely one of the things that I learned in the process of breaking my wheel and having the fiber that I had already spun sit for months on end, is that resting your fiber after it's been spun is actually a really important part of the process. I've turned out some pretty overspun hanks of handspun, and definitely when things sit for a long time, they come out way nicer. Who'da thunk? So that was definitely my big take home from that whole process, that and be really, really careful with the spinning wheel. So there you go. So I'm working on the Hoppin' Along 4G, and my goal is in fact to produce those 2 plies as minis to go into the blanket. I'm really, really itching to work on my blanket. But I'm also loving the shawls that I'm working on. I'm also, loving all of the other stuff that I've got on the needles. I'm excited to cast on the gift knits that I have in mind, because I'm going to take the paddle mitts pattern from Tin Can Knits and churn out a whole bunch of those in Harry Potter house cut colorways for some family members for Christmas. So all that and more on the next episode of TheySpin and Daughter, possibly even with some actual daughter featured. You never know around here. Certainly I will say, though, I would love to record and podcast every week maybe even. When you have to convince a 4-year-old that it's the right time to do something, it's not always possible to get her to be on the podcast, so there you go. So sometimes you will get daughter, sometimes you will not get daughter. So I do think that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!